only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you like my videos, please subscribe. It's free. You can always unsubscribe later if you want to. Enjoy the video. So, Ukraine invasion. Would Putin press the nuclear button? I found this article today. I thought it'd be pretty interesting to cover. I mean, I don't think it's actually that likely that Putin would launch nuclear weapons because they're very very destructive, and it like just think about what all out nuclear warfare would look like. Like Putin putting out or launching nuclear weapons is just a step in the direction that needs to be taken for global nuclear warfare to be happening. So I don't think the odds are great at all that Putin would use nuclear weapons. But anyway, this article was posted 16 hours ago, so it's not that long ago. So is this like a Q&A, I believe? It's a Q&A of some sort, I believe. All right. So obviously this is a picture of the current Russian President, Vladimir Putin. All right, so let's read the article. Let me begin with an admission. So many times I've thought Putin would never do this, and then he goes and does it. He'd never annex Crimea, surely. He did. He'd never start a war with the Donbass. He did. He'd never launch a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. He has. I've concluded that the phrase he would never do doesn't apply with Vladimir Putin. And that raises an uncomfortable question. He'd never press the nuclear button first, would he? This is not a theoretical question. Russia's leader has just put this country's nuclear forces on special alert. Really? Complaining of aggressive statements over Ukraine by NATO leaders. Okay, that's definitely new to me. Listen closely to what President Putin has been saying. Last Thursday, when he announced on TV his special military operation, air quotes, because it's not really a special military operation, it's just a full-scale, yeah, as it says in the article, in reality a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, he delivered a chilling warning. To anyone who would consider interfering from the outside, if you do, you will face consequences greater than any you have faced in history. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's a very important statement to keep in mind from Putin that he has said. Putin's words sound like a direct threat of nuclear war, believes Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muratov, not even going to pronounce their first name. I don't know how to do that. Not familiar with. Anyway. Chief editor of the Novaya Gazeta newspaper. Got through that with no issues. And in that TV address, Putin wasn't acting like the master of the Kremlin, but the master of the planet, in the same way the owner of a flash car shows off by twirling his keyring around his finger. Putin was twirling the nuclear button. He said many times, if there's no Russia, why do we need the planet? Okay, that's concerning. If that is actually the case. I mean, but this article is from BBC, so it's probably accurate. No one paid any attention, but this is a threat that if Russia isn't treated as he wants, then everything will be destroyed. And that's why they're applying sanctions on Russia right now, NATO. This is Putin from currently watching a missile launch in 2005 could resort to more desperate measures if this war in Ukraine is perceived to be failing. In a 2018 documentary, President Putin commented that if anyone decides to annihilate Russia, we have the legal right to respond. Yes, it will be a catastrophe for humanity and the world. But I'm a citizen of Russia and its head of state. Why do we need a world without Russia in it? I don't think it's so much why do we need a world without Russia in it. It's why do we need just really aggressive leaders in this world instead of peaceful ones, I guess. Anyway, fast forward to 2022, Putin has launched a full-scale war against Ukraine. I wouldn't call it a full-scale war, I would call it a full-scale invasion, because, that's what happened. Like, if you don't formally declare war, and you enter your troops into another country, then it is an invasion. Anyway, full-scale war against Ukraine, but the Ukrainian armed forces are putting up stiff resistance. Western nations have, to the Kremlin's surprise, united to impose potentially crippling economic and financial sanctions against Moscow, which they have. I believe they're actually live right now, as we speak. The very existence of the Putin system may have been put in doubt. Putin's in a tight spot, believes Moscow-based defense analyst Pavel, whatever that last name is. Not going to even try. He doesn't have many options left. Once the West freezes the assets of the Russian central bank and Russia's financial system actually implodes, that will make the system unworkable. Makes sense. One option for him is to cut gas supplies to Europe, hoping that will make the Europeans climb down. But I don't think that's an option, though, because they do a lot of trade with their gas supplies. So if they cut off gas supplies to Europe, then Russia isn't actually getting the resources it needs, and I believe the resources that it is money of some sort. I could be wrong, though, of course. Climb down. Another option is to explode a nuclear weapon somewhere over the North Sea between Britain and Denmark and see what happens. Yeah, maybe. If Vladimir Putin did choose a nuclear option, would anyone in his close circle try to dissuade him or stop him? Russia's political elites are never with the people, says Nobel. Same person as before. They will always take the side of the ruler, which in this case is, unfortunately, as it is Vladimir Putin. And in Vladimir Putin's Russia, the ruler is all powerful, and that this is a country with few checks and balances. It's the Kremlin that calls the shots. No one is ready to stand with Putin, says Pavel. We're in a dangerous spot. Yeah, for sure. The war in Ukraine is Vladimir Putin's war. Accurate statement. Most Russians don't even want the war. If the Kremlin leader achieves his military aims, Ukraine's future as a sovereign nation will be in doubt. If he is perceived to be failing and suffers heavy casualties, the fear is that could prompt the Kremlin to adopt more desperate measures, especially if would never do no longer applies. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So yeah, Ukraine signs request to join EU as round of talks with Russia ends. What is this picture of? The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, with the prime minister and right parliament speaker. after signing an official request for Ukraine to join the European Union. If the request is accepted, that's going to be pretty big for Ukraine, for sure. Alright, so I'm going to react to this article now, and then I'm going to watch those two videos I was talking about earlier. Alright. An embattled Ukraine moved to solidify its bond with the West on Monday by signing an application to join the European Union. While the first round of Ukraine-Russia talks aimed at ending the fighting concluded with no immediate agreements. Not surprising. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky released photos of himself signing the EU application, a largely symbolic move that could take years to become reality and is unlikely to sit well with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has long accused the West of trying to pull Ukraine into its orbit. Well, here's the thing. If you're attacking a country, they're not gonna just reluctantly join your side. You should expect a lot of fight. All right, let's continue. Russian and Ukrainian officials held their meeting on day 5 of the war under the shadow of Putin's nuclear threats, and with Moscow's invasion of Ukraine running into unexpectedly fierce resistance. Early Monday night, a top advisor to Ukraine's president said that the first round of talks with Russia in the Gomel region of Belarus had ended and that both delegations had returned home for consultations in their capitals. Mikhailo Podolak, is that how you say that? Gave few details except to say that the talks held near the Ukraine-Belarus border were focused on possible ceasefire, and that a second round could take place in the near future. All right, this is a photo of Russian and Ukrainian officials take part. Oh, so this is essentially like the talk. Okay. Alright, at this stage, Ukraine is many years away from reaching the standards for achieving EU membership, and the 27-nation bloc is expanded, weary, and unlikely to take on new members anytime soon. Also, the addition to the EU must be approved unanimously, and some member states have complicated several approval procedures. Overall, the consensus has been that Ukraine's deep-seated corruption could make it hard for the country to win EU acceptance. Still, in an interview with Euronews on Sunday, EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen said, "We want them in the European Union." So that's a good sign. At least the Commission Chief wants them in the European Union. Meanwhile, outgunned Ukrainian forces managed to slow the Russian advance, and Western sanctions began to squeeze the Russian economy, but the Kremlin again raised the specter of nuclear war, reporting that its land, air, and sea nuclear forces were on high alert following Putin's weekend order. Stepping up his rhetoric, Putin denounced the U.S. and its allies as an empire of lies. Putin has just lost his mind here. Putin has just lost his mind. Citizens do it. They only post credible information about Russian invasion of Ukraine online. Social media companies have some steps trying to prevent misinformation from setting on their... Good. Yeah, all we want to hear is the accurate stuff. A tense calm reigned in Kiev, where people lined up to buy food, water, and pet food after 2 nights trapped inside by a strict curfew. But social media video from Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, showed residential areas being shelled, with apartment buildings shaken by repeated powerful blasts. Authorities in Kharkiv said that at least 7 people had been killed and dozens injured. They warned that casualties could be far higher. Well, take the small victories when you can, whenever they're not so high, I guess. Alright, so this is a picture of people queuing up outside a supermarket in Kiev. Also, so apparently, well, actually, I shouldn't be surprised that apparently most grocery stores and supermarkets are closed. Yeah, I really shouldn't have been surprised. Anyway, let's continue. They wanted to have a blitzkrieg, but failed, so they act in this way. They said 8-year-old Valentin Petrovich, using his first name and his Russian-style middle name because of fear for his safety, he described watching the shelling from his downtown apartment. Now, for those of you who don't know what blitzkrieg is, that is a military strategy where you essentially look at your opponent and you look at what their weaknesses are and hit their weakest points as hard as you can to win a quick, decisive war. That's and I can give many examples of blitzkrieg being used in the past as well. With Germany in World War II, they blitzkrieged in the Ardennes in France. And the reason why that was a weakness is because France thought, oh, well, the Ardennes is just naturally impenetrable. But then Germany literally just smashed open the area by putting something like 50 divisions through, which is absolutely insane. That's a ridiculous amount of people, or a ridiculous amount of your army already. So that's just one of the many examples. But then, of course, there's also some examples, again, in World War II, whenever they were fighting Russia and everything like that as well. The Russian military has denied targeting residential areas despite abundant evidence of shelling of home, schools, and hospitals. If you have a brain, you can't actually deny that. Exact death tolls are unclear, but the UN Human Rights Chief said 102 civilians have been killed and hundreds wounded in 5 days of fighting, warning that figure was likely a vast undercount. Wow. And Ukraine's president said that at least 16 children were among the dead. That's emotional. More than 500,000 people have fled the country since the invasion, another UN official said Monday, among millions who have left their homes. Alright, it's getting a bit dark here. I'm going to turn on the other light. Alright, so we're about halfway through this article now. Alright, Russian currency plunges, which is actually huge for Ukraine here. Meanwhile, ordinary Russians face the prospect of higher prices as sanctions over the invasion of Ukraine sent the ruble plummeting, leading people to line up at banks and ATMs on Monday. The Russian currency plunged about 30% against the US dollar in early trading Monday, a day after Western nations announced moves to block some Russian banks from the SWIFT international payment system and to restrict Russia's use of its massive foreign currency reserves. Nice. Okay, let's going. The Russian central bank raised its key rate to 20% from 9.5% in an attempt to shore up the ruble and prevent a run on banks, bringing only a temporary reprieve for the currency. Yeah, raising it to 20% from 9.5 is a lot. UN chief calls nuclear threat chilling. Obviously, it's chilling. What are you talking about? Anyway, in New York, the UN Security Council convened a rare emergency meeting of the UN General Assembly, or all the United Nations 193 member states, on Monday. Wow. So that was today, I think. Or what? No, it had to have been today, I think, yeah. You know what? I could be wrong, obviously. Today, as in like the 28th. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called Moscow's announcement Sunday that it was putting its nuclear defenses on alert a chilling development. The fighting in Ukraine must stop, he said. I think 95% of people who've heard about this can agree. Alright, what's happening on the ground? Kiev, capital city. The fast-moving developments came as scattered fighting has continued around Kiev, with Russian troops closing around Kiev, a city of almost 3 million people. The mayor of the capital expressed doubt that civilians could be evacuated. Authorities have been handing out weapons to anyone willing to defend the city. Ukraine is also releasing prisoners with military experience who want to fight and training people to make fire bombs. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. But Russian Defense Minister Igor, Major General, somebody, said the military would let Kiev residents use a highway that leads out of the city to the southwest, an offer that appeared to signal a new onslaught is coming. A nearly 40-hour curfew in Kiev ended on Monday morning. The curfew will resume each night from 10 p.m. until 7 a.m. Alright. Kharkiv, the second largest city. So this is a picture of like whenever one of the bombs or rocket missiles or whatever. By recent shelling. Okay. Yeah. I've actually seen videos of the shelling happening, and it's pretty. It's emotional, but it's also kind of terrifying. Like I would be pretty scared if I was there. So I can only imagine what all these Ukrainian people are feeling right now. Battles also broke out in Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, with reports from UK defense officials early Monday suggesting heavy fighting continues around both Kharkiv and Chernihiv. Maybe, I don't know how to pronounce that. Ukrainian authorities on Monday said that at least 44 people have been wounded in fighting in Kharkiv over the past 24 hours, and that 7 of them died in hospitals. Wow. It wasn't clear if the casualties were all civilians. Okay. Ukrainian authorities say Russian troops have entered Ukraine's second largest city, located 40 kilometers from the Russian border. Wow. Here, a Ukrainian soldier examines a destroyed Russian infantry mobility vehicle. Oh, cool. Cities and villages in the south. Strategic ports in the country's south came under assault from Russian forces. Really not surprised. When was it? I think it might have been 2014 maybe? That Russia annexed Crimea, so yeah, I'm not that surprised. Anyway, by late Sunday, Russian forces had taken this place here, a Ukrainian city of 100,000 people, on the Azov Sea coast. Okay. An advisor. Okay, so this explaining what this person does. Interesting. Russian troops also made advances toward Kherson, another city in the south of Ukraine. While this city, it's a port city on the in this location again. That is considered a prime Russian target is hanging on. Wow, it's tough. Military invasion in Ukraine. All right. So a map. Okay. So for the circus, I can tap or hover to find more locations that have come under attack. So these are, so this location here and this location here are claimed by separatists but held by Ukraine. Oh, I was right. Yeah, Crimea was annexed by Russia in 2014. Direction of Russian troop movements. Okay, so from the north, little from the south, and from the east as well. So Ukraine is pretty much almost all surrounded. Chernobyl. Again from the Cold War era. Site of decommissioned nuclear power plant captured by Russian troops along with 92 personnel. Okay. What does Kiev have to say? City hit by missile strikes. Explosions reported near a power plant on the eastern outskirts. Russian and Ukrainian troops battling for control of a hostile airbase. Skirmishes reported at edge of city. Okay. Kharkiv, Russian missile strikes held, Russian missile strikes killed dozens of people in Ukraine's second largest city on Monday, according to Ukrainian Interior Ministry advisor. Okay. On Saturday, Ukraine said the Russian forces had blown up a gas pipeline in the city. Okay, so not too good. All right, so I'm almost done with this article here. In Mariupol, where Ukrainians were trying to fend off an attack, a medical team at a city hospital desperately tried to revive a young girl in unicorn pajamas who was mortally wounded in Russian shelling. Oh no. That is so sad. Did she survive? During the rescue attempt, a doctor in blue pumping oxygen and show this to Putin, he said angrily. The eyes of this child and crying doctors. Oh no! No! Come on. Oh, that's so sad. That sucks, man. The girl lay dead on a gurney, her jacket splattered with her blood. Wow. That's... Wow. More than 400,000 people in Ukraine have fled Russia's invasion, of course, with many crossing into Poland without their husbands and fathers who stayed behind to fight. Yeah, there's actually a ban on men from leaving the country, I believe. From leaving Ukraine. People fleeing Ukraine poured into Central Europe with queues at border crossings stretching for kilometers after the invasion pushed nearly 400,000 people to seek safety abroad. From the Associated Press, okay. Closing airspace to Russian aircraft. Meanwhile, the global backlash against Russia's invasion mounted. Of course, I mean, Putin is just power. Well, here's the thing. Like, I think from Putin's point of view, it's more like, Ukraine was a part of the USSR, I believe. But also, if Ukraine were to join, um, if Ukraine was to join Russia in an alliance, that would actually that would make Russia a lot safer from the West, as in just like the 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 USSR, how there was like this um it was almost just like a way to like if the West or if the West were to try to invade the USSR, then it would be a lot tougher to get to the Russian mainland there, just because of that kind of buffer that they have with all that territory. But on the flip side, if for example NATO picks up Ukraine, then it's really not looking too good for Russia either. So I guess that's kind of what Putin is thinking from his perspective, but just like world peace, man. Like if you just keep peace, then you won't be invaded. You know what I mean? Just like I don't know. I don't really understand Putin's mentality, I guess. Anyway, Greece on Monday joined a number of other European nations in closing its airspace to all Russian aircraft in line with a European Union decision. Europe and Canada moved on Sunday to shut their airspace to Russian aircraft, an unprecedented step aimed at pressuring the Russian president to end his invasion of Ukraine. Aeroflot said it would cancel all flights to European nations after EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell said the European Union had decided to close its airspace to Russian traffic. Makes sense. The United States is considering similar action, but is yet to make a final decision, according to U.S. officials. Oh, this is kind of cool. This is what is this? People gather in Toronto. It would actually be yesterday on February 27th as a part of protests around the world against the war in Ukraine. It started 4 days earlier when Russia invaded the country. Yeah, there's been even, believe it or not, there's been protests going on in Russia. Despite the fact that in Russia, like if you speak back, like if you protest against this in Russia, then you're going to jail, minimum. It reminds me a lot of North Korea, where if you say anything bad about the government, like you're in trouble. Like if you say anything bad about the government in North Korea and they find out about it, you're in a lot of trouble. You're in a lot of trouble just for saying words. Russia has closed its airspace to carriers from 36 nations, including European countries and Canada. The move announced Monday by the State Aviation Agency follows a decision by the EU and Canada over the weekend to close their skies to Russian planes in response to Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. It added that planes from those countries should only enter Russia's airspace with special permission. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire on Monday said France is getting ready to seize all assets of Russian officials and business leaders who are being targeted by EU sanctions. All right. Le Maire said French in the process of listing property, including financial assets, real estate, yachts, luxury cars. All right, so this is the last part of the article. Sanctions on Russian Central Bank. Yeah, this is pretty big, I think. The U.S. Treasury Department on Monday announced new sanctions targeting the Russian Central Bank and state investment funds. It said the move effectively immobilizes any assets of the central bank in the United States or held by Americans. Interesting. All right. In Canada, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, yes, kind of embarrassed Took me that long to read out her name because I'm Canadian. Anyway, has announced that effective immediately, all Canadian financial institutions are prohibited from engaging in any transaction with the Russian central bank, her department said in a statement Monday. In addition, Canada is imposing an asset freeze and a dealings prohibition on Russian sovereign wealth funds, the statement said. Japan will also join the international sanctions on Russia's central bank by limiting transactions with it, Prime Minister from Japan said on Monday. Oh man, these names from these other countries, I just can't get them. Anyway, the United Nations Human Rights Council agreed on Monday to Ukraine's request to hold an urgent debate this week on Russia's invasion, minutes after Kiev's envoy told the Geneva Forum that some of Moscow's military actions may amount to war crimes. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't really seen anything this big in terms of like wars, and invasions since World War II, have we? Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, so I'm going to move on to these videos now that I found. Of course, I will switch the scene here. All right, there you go. You guys, just turn up the volume just a little bit. Let me know if the volume is good or bad.
Now from the battlefield to the banks, President Biden and U.S. allies now imposing the most potentially crippling economic sanctions, going after the central bank reserves that underpin the Russian economy and severing some Russian banks from the vital international financial system. Our senior investor.
When was this uploaded? This was uploaded yesterday. Okay.
Investigative reporter Aaron Katursky is in Ukraine. Senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer is here with us in D.C. And retired General Robert Abrams, former commander of U.S. forces in Korea, also joining us. Aaron, let's start with you there in Kyiv. It's still under Ukrainian control for now, at least. Give us the latest.
I'm pronouncing it Kiev.
It is under Ukrainian control, and the Ukrainian military has almost been boastful about the successes it has had with troops and also this civilian army that they've been able to build up, handing out weapons to civilians, including members of parliament, and also encouraging citizens to make Molotov cocktails and guard their own neighborhoods, stacking tires and sandbags to create checkpoints just in case Russian troops should advance. And the Ukrainians have been emboldened, I think, by these calls, by the shows of support from President Zelensky, who's appeared on social media to rally the troops and to rally the country to its own defense. But no one is under any illusions. As Ian says, the Russians can still respond with overwhelming power. To that end, Zelensky has now been willing to negotiate, it seems. He'll send a team to the Belarus-Ukraine border. He wasn't going to go all the way to Minsk because he didn't think Belarus was indeed neutral ground, but he will go to the border and meet a Russian delegation there.
I don't think Belarus isn't neutral ground, because if Belarus was neutral ground, it wouldn't have allowed the whole field hospital thing and the army in Belarus. Yeah, Putin put some of his army in some field hospitals in the Ukraine-Belarus border. So yeah, it wouldn't have been and down the middle
there, and perhaps try to work out something, but there is still,
of course, by reading the article, we
in
know
this
that
country.
This talk didn't really do much. But
And while that is happening, Devin, let's talk about cutting Russia off from the SWIFT system now, the nuclear option for sanctions. What exactly will be affected now? Explain this to us.
a lot.
Yeah, Kira, the French foreign minister this morning called it the financial nuclear weapon. But the bottom line is we haven't seen the details yet. The White House is saying this is a coordinated blow to Russia that will further isolate them from the global economic system. It had been talked about as a major step. We know that this move will cut off some of Russian banks, not all Russian banks, from a key system which allows those banks to participate in international financial transactions. They communicate with each other. So this will make it much harder for those banks to do business.
So like, if we go back a few seconds, like, these are all NATO countries. What you see right here, and if you go back to like 1946 or 1945, whenever NATO was first formed, like, there was a lot less of these countries in here. I believe Turkey definitely wasn't a part of it, but Russia was also, like, the USSR had even, like, Poland, part of Romania too. So, and actually they actually had at the time what was a part of Germany, actually, and Berlin, the capital of Germany as well. So just, this is the pretty decent map, I think, to give kind of a visual about NATO especially, but like how, like, it kind of helps explain a little bit better, like, what I was talking about, where Putin is just like, we can't allow Ukraine to join NATO or even the EU,
Financial transactions, they communicate with each other. So this will make it much harder for those banks to do business. That could further isolate Russia and the economy. We'll have to see what the details are in terms of how significant an impact this will have. Perhaps an even bigger development, though, Kira, overnight, was that the White House is now targeting Russia's central bank. $600 billion in foreign reserves. That is money that Vladimir Putin has said he has saved up for a rainy day fund, if you will, if and when these Western sanctions hit. That is now being frozen around the world with that move. That is significant. And we also know, Kira, that this all follows those efforts late last week by the White House to freeze out some of the richest, most powerful Russians, those oligarchs, from their reserves in international banks, and also things like yachts that are parked at ports around the world, and golden passports, things like that, to be able to travel. So really putting the pinch on Russia.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
And General, now Putin is ordering deterrent forces on high alert, including actual nuclear weapons. What do you make of this? The fact that he's rattling his saber here, is this of concern?
But here's my question: is risking nuclear warfare globally worth it to potentially control Ukraine, or for Ukraine to be a part of Russia? Like, if the entire, like, just imagine the scale of that. The entire world going into nuclear warfare, and just a third world war, essentially, just a scale of that. That's just, the scale of that is, like, unimaginable, really. But as Putin has said, it's something that we haven't seen really in humanity before. So,
or is this just Putin being Putin?
It's Putin being Putin.
Well, Kira, I think it's a little bit of both.
He's
I think we need to go back to the presser after the Macron-Putin 6-hour marathon meeting, and that's where Putin really issued his first veiled threat of the potential use of nuclear weapons. It did not. That statement by him did not get a lot of press at the time, but he has been lightly rattling this saber now for over a week. So the announcement today should not come as a complete surprise. And I think it's sending a clear message back to those NATO. Yesterday and the day before was a high watermark day for NATO countries stepping up to make military arms contributions to the Ukrainian military and the Ukrainian people. And I think this is Putin's way of sending a message back that says, be careful. Because he has that unique capability, that strategic capability. But as you said, this is typical Putin. He is a bully, and this is a bully's tactic.
Aaron, finally, while we have you, Zelensky has agreed now to send this delegation to negotiate with Russia. Do you think there is any hope for a ceasefire here?
Well, so far, Russia has only been willing to negotiate on its own terms, Kira, and insisting that Ukraine capitulate to its demand that it never join NATO. It wants a declaration from President Zelensky. I'm not sure at this point he's prepared to make that declaration, and we're not sure whether this is cover or whether this is serious groundwork for talks to end the fighting.
Yeah, and I've also heard that Ukraine has been trying to make some sort of negotiation for something like the past 8 years, and like 8 years, and it's like it's always being rejected. So like why would Putin listen now for negotiations for a ceasefire unless if it's under his own terms? You know, like I don't, just trying to visualize it under Putin's perspective. I don't think there's any reason why he would do that. I don't know.
If, in fact, the Ukrainian people believe that a ceasefire is possible anytime soon, they don't seem to show it. There are hundreds of thousands of them on the move. Today, Kira, I visited Lviv's main train station. This has been a hub for people who are traveling from more dangerous parts of the country, trying to get out to, say, Poland. Those trains are packed. People have been waiting 24 hours or longer for a ride into an uncertain future.
All right, General Robert Abrams, Devin Dwyer, and our Aaron Katursky, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out.
Yeah, that was good. That was some really good stuff. All right, let's watch this next one. Diplomatic talks are expected between Ukraine and Russia following a nuclear threat. This video was also uploaded yesterday.
We begin tonight with the latest in Ukraine, where diplomatic talks are in the works following Russian President Vladimir Putin's order to have nuclear forces on high alert. While fighting continues in various parts of Ukraine, allies like Canada and members of the European Union slapped on more sanctions. Jason Idola has the details.
More destruction is left behind in places like Kharkiv and Donetsk, as Russian troops are reportedly closing in the country's interior, including its capital.
We hope this night will be quiet. We hope the Russians take the decision, move back to Russia. They nothing to find here in our home.
More explosions lit up the sky in Kyiv overnight, and both sides are reporting deaths on the ground. Escalated tensions led to a call for nuclear forces by Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, here's the thing about war, though. It's like, why would you go to war unless if it's like the last option? You know, like, why waste more lives? You know, we've seen it in the past too. Again, I'll use the World War II example. The East and the West were closing in on all sides on Germany, and Hitler still ordered them to fight, even though there was 0% chance that they were going to prevent Germany from losing the war. So he decided to do that instead of surrendering, saving his men. So, a shame.
Officials in leading NATO countries have allowed themselves to make aggressive comments about our country. Therefore, I hereby order the Minister of Defense and the Chief of the General Staff to place the Russian Army Deterrence Force on combat alert.
The order was followed by Ukraine announcing a delegation will meet with Russian officials at the Belarus border for talks.
The only thing there is to negotiate is an armistice, right? Everybody stops shooting and everybody stays where they are, right? Nobody else needs to die. I think that's going to be the only thing that's on the table here.
In an attempt to seek refuge, thousands continue to flee Ukraine by vehicle and train and are met with major delays at borders.
So far, at least 300,000 Ukrainians has entered into the EU territory.
While many try to escape, protests continue to grow across the globe in support
So I
of
was talking
Ukraine and its
earlier with
people,
protests.
including this one at a Russian embassy in Berlin. And more sanctions on Russia's economy were rolled out. Canada's transport minister says Russian planes are now banned from Canadian airspace.
I would now look at the corporate aircraft that come into Canada that may be not registered in Russia but owned by Russian oligarchs. And I would suggest that perhaps those airplanes should be forbidden from flying in Canadian airspace as well.
Against Russian troops, federal officials say they'll deliver another $25 million worth of helmets, armor, and gas masks, as well as cybersecurity and airlift support.
Oh, it's good. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I do think that things are starting to look up for Ukraine, though. Like so many, like. NATO is like NATO, the EU, those alliances are indirectly involved now, trying to limit the amount of resources that Russia has, which is good. But yeah, that's good. That's good. My heart goes out to your Ukrainians, man. I mean, what do they do to deserve this?